Okay, so this is like my new thing and my cozy girl reviews, and this one is of Onyx Storm because I finished reading Onyx Storm in like 2 days, and it was mostly because I didn't want to catch any spoilers, like if I went on TikTok or something and saw a spoiler. So just to say that this video will have spoilers. This isn't a full review or anything like that, it's just like some things that I picked up and like the general premise. Sorry, the storm is happening outside. But the general premise of like what the hell happened in the book. So yeah, if you like want to read the book but you don't want to know any spoilers, don't watch this. Maybe watch this afterwards to like make things make a bit more sense, because there is a lot of information to absorb. But also maybe it's you want to be an Emphirium person, whatever this series is called, but you'd also like don't want to have to sit through and read it all, so you want to act like you know what the girlies are talking about, but you don't want to put in the labour and the manual labour of reading the book. So I guess this one's for you. So just to give a brief recap, so we kind of pick off where we left off in Iron Flame, is that Violet knows that Xaden is becoming Venom because he channeled from the earth to save her. That's a whole other thing about whether that was necessary, but it's fine, it is what it is. And essentially the whole of Onyx Storm is about Xaden and Violet going on this, not just them, but like Violet's whole thing, this whole book, is that she needs to find a cure to save Xaden from turning Venom, but then also we're trying to stop the Venom from taking over the whole of the continent, because obviously they're like power hungry and they're trying to take over. So there's like battles and stuff, there's a lot of political stuff happening with like between the different like nations and the isles, because that's like the islands around the continent are pretty prominent in this book. We find out some interpersonal stuff, some stuff about like Xaden's family, Violet's family, you know, there's more about Andana and like what the hell she is essentially. So that's what's going on in the book. She's just traipsing around trying to ultimately save Xaden. That's like her key thing, like her main thing, but she also does want to save like everybody else, like Navarre and the continent, etc, etc. But this video, like I said, is not like a detailed like this happened, then this happened, then this happened. Might do that in the future, I don't know, but this is just a little, I want to know like what I just read, because I have no idea what I just read, because I had to do a lot of like, when I finished last night I had to do a lot of rereading of some chapters, because I'm like, what the hell just happened, because I am not sure, not aware of what's going on. But I'm basically just going to mention a few of the key things that I'd picked up, and they're not going to be chronological, but I think these are the things that, like, if you want to like have discourse about, these are things that you could have discourse about, you know. So Xaden, literally right at the start, so we already found out in, I think it was Fourth Wing, that we realised that Xaden is the heir to Orisha, because Orisha is still standing. But right at the start of Onyx Storm, Xaden is basically given an even bigger title, which is that he's the Duke of Tyrandor, and he's been basically given a seat at the council, and he's like a noble person and he can speak on behalf of the people. And even though a lot of people, like a lot of Navarre's leaders, like don't really want him to have this sort of power, he has it. I would just like to say that I think that somebody just goes to Rebecca Yarros like, oh, like tropes, and she was like, yes, and she just started a checklist and started adding in all these tropes. Maybe at the end of my points I'll get to like some of the tropes that she's added in, but this being one of them, that now he's like nobility and she's not, so just something to mention. We also find out that Garrick and some of the other members of the marked ones, some of the other marked ones have second signets. So we know that Garrick, anyway, we find out that he's a distance builder, and so now we also know that they're keeping secrets about what they are, because like I think is it Bodhi, Violet asks Bodhi at one point like, oh, so do you have a signet, or are you just gonna like, are you like not telling me that you have a signet like Xaden, or are you telling me you don't have a second signet? And he's like, I don't have a second signet like Xaden, so don't know. I'm pretty sure it's Bodhi, or was that Garrick and I'm just missing it? And then she figures it out, but I'm pretty sure it was Bodhi. Maybe I need to reread that as well, because I don't know. But basically, it looks like the people with rebellion relics are more likely to have second gifts, but I need to know like why that is, because we know that Liam, who died in the first book, did have a second signet, which was ice, and that we know that Imogen has some sort of rock wielding signet, even though we thought that they only had the other signet. So it does look like it's a common occurrence amongst the rebellion relics people. If you don't know what the rebellion relic is, it's the people whose the children of the people who were in the rebellion. So instead of killing them, they were given rebellion relics, and they're basically forced to conscribe to the Riders Quadrant. I think Navarre leadership will or they'll die, but little do they know that not only did they pass the parapet, but then also the dragons were willing to bond with them, which I think the Navarre leadership was shook by for sure. We also learn a lot more about Violet and Violet's like parents and her past, etc. But one of the main things is that we learn that even though Papa Sorrengail is no longer around, also had no idea his name was Asher, but basically Asher Sorrengail's work and everything that he did, which he left behind so that only Violet can see it, is going to help Violet. And so when she's able to find it, which she does in the book, she's able to like formulate a plan of like what to do next with that information, because as we know from Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, everything that they've been taught and are learning and everything recorded in the like scribes libraries and stuff, it doesn't appear to be accurate, but rather like a manipulated truth of like what's happened like so far. So yeah, I think Onyx Storm is the book where we learn that his name is Asher, and that he's been leaving like breadcrumbs and like little snippets here and there to like help Violet when it comes to it, because we also find out at one point, I can't remember who says it, but somebody says it, it's like, because I think Mia is feeling a little like, oh, like he didn't leave anything to me, and then they were like, oh yeah, but Asher Sorrengail was like Violet's, and your mom was yours. We also find out more about Xaden's family, because we learn that Xaden's mother, she's still alive and kicking. I called this, by the way. I kind of knew this because they weren't mentioning her in like an explicit way like they were mentioning Fen Ryerson in the previous books. But yeah, she's alive. She's gone back to the island that she's from, because she's from the Isles. She's not from Premier like Xaden thought that she was. And she's started a new family. She's got like a whole thing going on, and he's like real sad about it. What I said earlier about Rebecca Yarish is checking things off the checklist, like, oh, Xaden's a duke. Oh, Xaden's Professor Ryerson now. Yeah, now we've got contract marriage, because that's what happened between Fen Ryerson and Xaden's mother, Tatiana. Because yeah, they had a contract marriage. When the contract ended, she went back to her little island that she's from. Xaden's like, why? And then she was like, oh, you're the heir of Orisha, he would have let me take you. And he was like, well, why didn't you just stay then? And she was like, I wasn't going to stay, he didn't love me, not like you two love each other, referring to Xaden and Violet. Things don't go so well on this island. There's a lot of poisoning that's happening back and forth. People are poisoning one another. But yeah, bad relationship with his mom, that's for sure. We also find out that Andana is an Irid Scorpion tail? scorpion tail, and her kind live on islands, which is what Violet's been trying to do, and she thinks that that should also help to, like, if she can ask them the cure for like people turning venom, la la la. So they find them, but then they find out that she's part. Andana is a breed of a peaceful dragon, and they're like peaceful, and it's quite funny because they've left now Navarre because Navarre's all like war and like violence and like all of this. But they're quite judgmental about a lot of things, including the bond. They're like, why are you bonding with a human? And they're like, because that's what we do. And they're like, Dandana, why have you done that? And then she's like, this is what they do, this is what we do. And they were like, no, you're not one of them, you're supposed to be one of us, because Andana was meant to be a test for the humans, and they, like, the Irids keep calling her the Criterion, and basically she was supposed to be the test for the humans to see if they've like changed their way over the hundreds of years. And Andana is now like come back to them and is now proof that that's not what's happened, because they're still like fighting and stuff like that, and they're like, no, like, you guys don't get it. Honestly, it's giving Divergent, like, you know how Divergent, like the Divergents are, like, that's how you know the experiment is complete. Like, basically the humans have failed the experiment because Andana, like, they've like used her, they've made her into a weapon, and they're supposed to be peaceful. That's not what's supposed to happen. And it's really sad because I really love Andana the Sassy Queen, but she's really like depressed almost after this, because they essentially, her kind reject her, her family reject her, and it's really sad. We also learn that Violet has a second signet, which we thought she would have anyway, but the Irids are like basically like, oh, how could you like give her a signet like that's so dangerous, la la la. Her signet is dream walking. It took me a second to be like, why the hell is this dangerous? But it's because she's a form of intrinsic as well, and that she could be killed for it is because she can just wander into people's dreams and like do whatever the hell she wants in people's dreams, and like no one can shield her because apparently you can't shield when you're sleeping. So yeah, she's a dream walker, and it's also why we now know that she's having like nightmares or dreams from the perspective of other people. So she's been having like dreams from Xaden's perspective, and she can like meddle in there, like she can do this kind of thing. So she might need to hide this ability. Speaking of abilities, we also learned that Auric, aka Cam, aka one of the sons of the king, he like might actually be an actual like precog. Like he's like better than Malgrin, because Malgrin can see like specific, if someone takes us, like Alice from Twilight, she can see the specific path when it's chosen, or like multiple paths, but it appears that Auric might be able to like genuinely see like the future and like what the hell's gonna happen, because he just knows stuff. Also, Auric is hella smart. Like we forget that he was trained to be a diplomat, so he's like really good with all this diplomat stuff, and he can like speak all these languages. And they're like, why didn't you tell us this before? And then he was like, oh, just like, I like to be quiet, I like to be in the background, you know. And also, I think he wanted to give poor Dane a chance, but every time he's like, you guys are taking the mick out of me now. Dane, this is Dane by the way, because he's like, why am I even here? Like, I'm here from the language perspective and you guys don't even need me. Another sad moment, to be honest, there was quite a few sad moments, but many of them relate to Andana for me, and that is the fact that Andana breaks her bond with Violet, because basically after the initial rejection from the Irids, she's real sad. Then they're in battle, in one of the final battles in Onyx Storm, and then one of the Irids comes back, the one that was feeling like a little bit thingy, like okay, like to accept her, until he found out about the whole she might be giving her some of her ability to Andana, to Violet. Andana was giving some of her abilities to Violet and letting her channel them. But he comes and he powers the ward stone in Orisha, which helps like protect a little bit, but also offers that he's going to take Andana back and like teach her the ways of the Irids, and then basically says like, you can sever the bond, like you chose to make it, so you can sever it. And then she does, and it's really sad. But then Andana does return, at the end of the book to help Violet and Xaden. So it looks like she changed her mind and maybe she realised that like Violet was her real family. But that's, I was shocked. I was like, sis, you cannot do this. You're the sassy queen and this is your sister. We also find out why Violet's hair is partly silver, and it's because Violet's father almost dedicated her to Dune, so who is a goddess, so like dedicated her in the service. So when they go to one of the islands to like request for support and help and all of that, Violet has like a really strange conversation with one of the priestesses of Dune, and Dune is the goddess of war, I think, and basically she tells her, oh, you didn't complete your dedication to the goddess, and that doesn't make any sense to Violet. But then she later on finds out from Mira, who found out from her one of her grandmothers, I think her dad's mum, that Violet was almost dedicated to the goddess as a baby because of the dad, hoping that it would like help her like health condition and stuff. But whoever was trying to like complete the dedication ritual foresaw not specifically Xaden, but something about Venin, because they were like, oh, her heart's gonna be Venin, or whoever's heart beats for her, or the heart that beats for her. And so people thought that that was going to be her, but it's actually obviously Xaden. And it's quite funny when the whole thing is happening, because it's not funny, but it's funny. But Mira was like, oh yeah, the heart that beats, la la la. Like, they thought you were gonna turn Venin and la la la. And then Xaden's like, shut up, she's not the one that's turning Venin. I'm Venin. My heart beats for her. I'm Venin. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. One of like the main villains in Onyx Storm is this Maven, who is like one of the Venin, called Theophany, and basically what she does is kidnap, towards the end of the book, she kidnaps Mira so that she can coerce Violet, and then in association also Xaden, to basically do what she wants. And then she basically, like, I'm convinced that one of these siblings is going to die, right? Like, either like someone's going to die, one of these Sorrengails are going to die, and I was convinced that we were here, it was there, it was happening to Mira, because this Theophany, she just slits Mira's throat straight up. There's blood squirting everywhere. But then Brennan's there to mend her, but he doesn't have enough power, so we have to call in Salome, who is Liam's sister. But Liam's sister Salome is like kind of not really wanting to, like, she hasn't been training her signet, and she's like, oh crap, like maybe I should have been, but she does manage to do it, and she manages to siphon power from Dane, with his permission, into Brennan so that they can mend Mira. But we don't know at the end of the book how well mended Mira is. What if she can't talk? For a lot of the book, we're under the impression that Theophany, or whatever, is a lightning wielder, and is the balance or the answer to Violet Sorrengail. However, we actually find out that because of this whole like balance thing, because apparently stronger Venin have equivalent like signets to like find the balance and like of the dragons and stuff, but we find out that she's not actually a lightning wielder, but instead she's the answer to Lilith, and she's a storm wielder, making her Lilith's equivalent. And it also explains why they always have this like weird bad weather all the time. Of course people are gonna die. We knew that was gonna happen. This is not the point I'm trying to make, but I just remember Catronia, or Cat, whatever, the griffin flyer, who is like in line to be like in one of the heirs of the throne of Promeal or whatever. So she finally gets over Xaden at one point, which is good. And she gets like deep into this relationship with this other griffin fly who she's known forever. I don't remember his name, but it starts with a T. Tell me why, literally a chapter later, after they've gotten together, this man is like shot dead with an arrow, and they can't even react, because it's they have to accept whatever gift that they're given from this island without flinching, without reacting, even though he gets an arrow through his chest right in front of him. I don't know how they do it. Another death is Imogen's best friend Quinn, and I mean she dies in like a pretty good, like not good way, it wasn't good, but like for good reason. Like she was trying to save a bunch of people, innocent people, right towards the end. But the point is, like the whole interaction they had, like when she was dying and she was like, tell like so and so I love them, like all of that, it was heart melting. Okay, that's what I'm gonna say. Sorry, I'm having to re-record a bunch of these clips and it's really draining me because I'm saying the same things like 4 times over. But anyway, a nice bittersweet moment is that in the end Xaden has to give in and be a Venin, but this time it's to save Sigale. So previously he became an initiate because of wanting to save Violet, but now he upgrades from initiate to Asim. These are like different ranks of Venin, I guess, to save Sigale because she's like trapped. And then they have this whole discourse towards the end, like because his like appearance and soul and everything has changed, because we find out that apparently when you turn Venin your soul breaks, so you can't really fix it apparently. And he's like, oh, I hope everything's okay with Violet, and she was like, she's not going to accept you like this. And then he was like, she promised. And then Sigale's like, Turn didn't, so watch yourself. We also find out right at the end of Onyx Storm that Xaden and Violet got married, and this is to ensure that Orisha like is in safe hands. Somewhere along the line something's happened and they've got married, because even Violet doesn't remember what happened because Imogen said that, oh, you told me to wipe your memory, so whatever. But the only way she knows that she's married is because she's got a ring on her left finger, her left ring finger, and an official decree from a high priestess saying, or a priestess, whatever, saying that, oh, yeah, Xaden Ryerson and Violet Sorengale are like married. Yeah, but this is probably to ensure the security of Orisha first of all, because we're unsure about Bodhi because he never really wanted to be on the throne anyway, and also he ensures like that Violet's like got a place or whatever, and it, like I said, it was something that they were hinting at the whole time. Speaking of like Bodhi and that, we do learn at some point that someone else has turned Venin who is like really pivotal to the story and one of the main people. We don't know who it is. They say sibling, but I think they also say he at some point. So, and there's also a bunch of people that are missing, as we find out, but we don't really know who. It's like some riders that are missing, so we're like, oh, who is it? So then I'm thinking, if we narrow it down, male rider has seen him stumble for the last 4 or 5 months, which is what he said, because he's like, I can't believe this person turned Venin because of, even though they've seen me struggle. I'm thinking Garrick, although I don't think it's Garrick. Riddick, possible, he's a little bit too interested. Bodhi, he really wanted to have some sort of interaction. I'd think it hilarious if it was Dane. Just saying. Just wanted to throw that one out there. But yeah, so basically it looks like the sage, which is one of the people, one of the Venin ranks, has convinced Xaden that he needs to like come along with him, and that's why he left Orisha to Violet. And said, don't look for me, because I'm assuming that Xaden's got like some like secret thing that he's thinking of as well that's going on. But the fact that the sage has someone, so like one, I don't know, somebody of his he has, it's like keeping leverage over Xaden, or like keeping him in line. So again, maybe it's not Dane then, because I don't think he'll care about him, but someone, right? So yeah, maybe in the next book they're going to be away from each other a lot, or like, I don't know, like how the communication's going to work and stuff. I just thought they were getting better at communicating, but yeah, don't really know. Also, there was a mention of like when before basically the sage killed one of the other people that was being a traitor to them, and then but before the traitor was killed, he was like, no, you need me to keep in contact with your son. And then he was like, oh, don't worry, I have another one. What are they talking about? I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. I've reread that chapter so many times, I still have no idea what they're talking about. But yeah, those are the main things from Onyx Storm. I don't know how long this video was, but trust me, it's much less time than reading the book. So yeah, basically, just to sum it all up in a couple sentence, Violet was roaming around, flying around the whole place, the whole map, to look for a cure. Then she found out there isn't one, but then it didn't matter anyway really at this point, because Xaden had to commit and become Venom to save his dragon, and then he also got married to Violet so that she could carry on like with their mission, while he does his own secret side mission that she can't know about because just had a memory erased upon her own request apparently, and she does her own secret side missions. And there's a bunch of people missing. So basically, what this book has done is leave more questions than answers. So this is what Rebecca does. She gives you some, not me calling her like Rebecca like we're besties, but Rebecca will give you some answers, but then you have like 20 more questions in like the place of one answer.